So I fixed my ECU problem. I just got it inspected, just passed inspection right there. So this is worthy of a video, and so I'll just get right to it. What my particular situation, what happened to me, I was able to fix it with just installing the spacer and resetting it, and then going through the drive-in of a couple weeks, and the computer and the light did not come back on. Now the installation of this is very specific, particularly that ground wire. You have to use the ground wire. You have to have the original ground wire hooked up to where it's supposed to be on top, and then the ground wire they provide you with for this orange plastic one, you have to put the ground wire they provide you with on top of that one, and then put it on, have it go onto that throttle body bolt, which is really easy to do. You just take the bolt out, put the ground wire on. But anyways, so there's going to be people with different circumstances, but for me, all I did was put this spacer in, and I also kind of cleaned up the harnesses using silicone oil spray, something that they use for air guns. It's supposed to be for good for rubber and metal, the plastic contact and conductivity as well. So that's what I did. I cleaned up the terminals, got them working because they weren't really going up and down. So I just cleaned those up nicely, and then I put the spacer in, and the light, reset it, and that light had not come back on for 2 weeks, and then I just got it inspected. It passed inspection, so that's conclusively fixed the problem. So what was happening? So that's the fix. That's what worked for me. Depending on, now these things, if you drive your car for too long, and especially if you go on long trips, hundreds of miles, and you can fry that computer, and at that point you need to get a different one. And they don't make them new anymore, so what you have to do is find one somewhere and make sure it's tested and that it's not fried and it's working, and then have it you take your old one and have them clone that software, that GM copyrighted fucking software, have them clone it off the old one, and then clone it onto the replacement one that you got. That's if you fried your fucking computer. Now, how do you know if you fried your computer? This is the next question, and this is the one that, when I got to a certain point in this whole process, was the biggest one for me. Is how do I know if I fried my computer? I mean, it's throwing the code, so surely it's fried or corrupted. Well, apparently it wasn't. It was just overheating, and I think what happens with these things, I mean, this is bolted. When these came out of the factory, this was bolted right to the manifold, right to the exhaust manifold. We're not talking about next to it or near it. We're talking about it's literally screwed to the manifold. I mean, the screws alone will straight up heat, go up to 500 degrees, 400 degrees. The screws. I mean, we're not even talking about the heat coming off of the manifold. The screws alone would. Anyways. So I think what happened and why they probably had some sort of protective barrier or coating on it that made it last out of the factory for a number of years, a few years, 5 years maybe, and then once that sensitive coating burns away, then it starts to overheat, and then you start getting those codes. Now, like I said before, if you go on long drives or you don't address this issue, you can fry that computer, and then you'd have to get another one. And that's really expensive. To get replacement ones, I saw an average of $500 up to $1,000. And of course, like anything else, there's people really making a freaking payday off of it. But alright, so where are we at? I'm explaining this issue. There's a lot to talk about here. And this is the reason why I've had this car. I bought this one for parts. and this was actually a really good condition one, better than the blue one that I was driving, but the blue one didn't have that ECU problem. So what forced me to start using this car was the head gasket blew on the blue car, and that was my fault. So, but man, it's awesome now that I got this one working, because this one is in real good condition. It's almost like a new car. So this ECU problem, how do you know if your ECU, how do you know if your ECU is fried and you need to get another one? That's a big question. Sorry for the delay. You will know if your ECU is fried if it's throwing those codes constantly. Like, I mean, if you go to reset the thing, and I advise to get one of these. I bought this when it was $50. I don't know how much they are now. It's really simple. ODB diagnoster, ODB2. You reset your code, or take it to AutoZone and have them reset it. Reset that code. If it comes back on immediately, you're headed towards fried computer. Not necessarily. Well, no. I almost have to say, if it comes back on immediately, you're either at fried computer or you're pretty close to it. But that doesn't mean that you should necessarily right away find a replacement. What I would recommend, first of all, to address this problem in the most least expensive way, get one of these spacers. They're $100. This one's plastic. I wish it wasn't, but it did work. But I wish it was aluminum, because that's known for being a better heat disperser. But anyways, the plastic one did work. I still might get an aluminum one and put that down under it, have like 2 spacers. So the first step to this, I would recommend, is getting that spacer in there. I mean, you're gonna have to do it anyways. So the first step is absolutely getting the spacer. Get the spacer, hook it up properly, reset the code, see what happens. If the code comes back on after that, you've got a possibly corrupt computer. Not necessarily fried yet, but you got it corrupt. So that means you might be able to get away with just having it cloned, which I believe is a type of flash where now this is getting into an area I'm not completely sure about, but I'm thinking that they clone the software and they basically reflash it. And then, so that could be, and that's $100 service that you could find on eBay. I'll put some screenshots up, but there's people on eBay. Don't go to a freaking small business online random crap. There's people on eBay, many of them, that have figured out how to do this cloning service, and they'll charge you under $100 for it. One guy's doing $60 right now because he wants your business. And they offer like 24 to 48 hour turnarounds that they claim, which is pretty amazing. But because I found a website that said that they do it for $500, $500 to $700, depending on this and that. Fuck you. You can get a whole nother computer for that and clone it. But anyways, so that and that's another reason why I kind of avoided this problem, because I knew it was going to be really involved of me educating myself on it, potentially losing a lot of money. But I did good, because I started by cleaning up these harnesses and the ECU itself, and then I got the spacer. And at first I didn't hook it up correctly with that ground wire problem, which caused it to have that stability function. I'll put in snippets of that, because I've made a couple videos throughout this process, throughout this 2-3 month process. Because every time you think you fix it, you got to drive it for a couple weeks and see if that light comes on. And if you don't drive your car a whole lot, that's another issue. Doing these testing things. Alright, so where are we? So what worked for me is your computer. Now there's another thing where these harnesses corrode and start giving you multiple issues. So there's a lot that could be going on here. I almost have to kind of recap because I'm just all over this place. I'll edit and put this together. I'll take parts from different videos and I rearrange them in the proper order. But to conclude, I got the inspection. It's good. It's good to go. It's working. Everything's great. I am so happy. I fixed it, but it hadn't gone too far for me. I mean, I know there's some people that their harnesses had corroded and damaged computer. See, I didn't get into it that much. I got lucky. Mine was just overheating. Mine wasn't even corrupted. So, and of course, so after, if you get the spacer, you put it in, you clean the harnesses, the code comes back, then get your computer cloned. The code still comes back after that, then you have to get a replacement computer and clone that. If your code still comes up after that, check your harnesses. If it still comes up after that, man, you've got another problem going on in that area. You know, you got corrosion, rust, moisture, you got some shit going on.